Many such cases. Many such cases. Rich Tomorrow unleashes a video on the internet. Oh, Nintendo Switch 2 third-party ports don't run well on the console. And I'm just sitting here thinking, looking at the video, the date it was uploaded, the title, didn't watch it. And I think to myself, this has already been debunked. If you aren't aware, there was this big cope on Twitter a while back, trying to gaslight people as if Elden Ring, a game that was available on PS4 and Xbox One, would not be able to run on Switch 2. And it's one of those things, right? It's one of those things where you know immediately that it's a complete and total farce. And I do think this really does to be talked about more. This needs to be studied because this attempt at downplaying Nintendo Switch 2 got absolutely nowhere because nobody cares about Elden Ring. The game looks and plays terribly even on the most powerful hardware on the market, Like, the game doesn't look good, right? And if you are a YouTuber who does not cover Nintendo content, who doesn't talk about Nintendo, who doesn't use their hardware, who doesn't have any real valid opinions on what Nintendo does, like, nobody's gonna listen to you. So what ended up happening when this story was initially debunked was that a lot of people like Fratanga, like a bunch of other PC Master Race people, they came out and they tried like fabricating this story that like Bandai Namco wasn't allowing people to like show footage of like Switch 2 Elden Ring because it was so terrible, and they showed video evidence debunking their entire grift. And eventually, like, we saw enough footage where we realized that, like, yeah, it doesn't look that bad, there's nothing wrong with it. But the entire like narrative completely imploded upon itself. First of all, like, Elden Ring is not a modern game. It is a last gen title. So the idea that it wouldn't run on Switch 2 was laughably stupid, even at the height of its relevancy. But, people really tried to springboard this and like use it to talk about other Switch 2 ports, games like Borderlands 4 and Madden. And again, it just kind of imploded. It's like 2 months ago when the Switch 2 first came out. Well, 3 months ago. 3 months ago when the Switch 2 first came out, there was this big push to gaslight people into thinking third-party games weren't doing well on the platform. And in the span of time since, that's become increasingly obvious that's not actually the case, and it's just a giant cope. This is another example of that, right? This is a blatant example of PC people. I hesitate to say gamers because they don't actually play games. I'm talking streamers. I'm talking like ASMR enjoyers. I'm talking like dudes who talk about Dark Side Phil for a living, right? I'm talking these guys are like sitting there trying to gaslight you into thinking Nintendo Switch 2 is failing for a paycheck, right? And that's what Rich Tomorrow tried to do. That's what ReviewTechUSA tried to pull, is that he tried making a video talking about this after it was already debunked. It's completely in the ground now. It's buried. It's like it tried coming back as a specter and haunting us, but the Ghostbusters came and just eliminated it. Like again, it's gone. Like it's not even like a shadow on anyone's mind. Like nobody believes this horseshit. And yet Rich, after recovering from like, I don't know, his food coma, after he came back after a long day of like sitting in his office watching DSP, he decided that he's gonna make a 10-minute video like trying to grift off of the Nintendo Switch 2 thing, trying to grift off to Elden Ring. Like, oh, I'm a hardcore gamer, guys. I have 700 hours on the title screen in Elden Ring. Like, I know what I'm talking about. Like, Rich has no credibility whatsoever. Not as a gamer, not as a tech YouTuber, not as a streamer or like a drama person. Like, I wouldn't even say he's really part of the sector. You know, that's how irrelevant he is. That is how desperate Rich is for attention. Like, Rich is like discount that guy with the glasses alumni. You know, he is so irrelevant. He left that guy with the glasses, subsidiary Blizzard Thumbs before it went bankrupt. You know, he was gone before that site even collapsed upon itself because there was no money to be made. Like, yeah, he couldn't grift. He had to move on. Like, they fired him. It's crazy to see like how irrelevant this individual is, and just how he's like basically clung on to relevance essentially because he was like tangentially attached to like C-list e-celebs at the time. Oh man, Spoonie's not uploading this week, so, or the week or next week or the week after that, or even for the rest of the year. So I guess I better watch this Review Tech USA guy. And that's all he's been doing since. He is someone with no real talent, no real capability of producing high quality content. Everything he tries results in failure. He can't even work at a Best Buy. He is someone that the Geek Squad looks at and says that he's beneath them. Those guys are just bottom of the barrel trash, and even Review Tech USA is like lower than them. He's like a parasite on the bottom of a slug. He's like what Rich wants to do, right? You know how like anglerfish mate, where like you have like the larger females, and then like you have the males kind of like attach themselves to the bottom by like latching their jaw onto it, and then it just kind of like they kind of like fuse together, and like the male just kind of withers away and dies. Like, that's what Rich wishes he could do. That's why he's like going after all these land whale ASMR thoughts on Twitch or whatever, because like that's what he wants to do. That's like his ideal living situation. Like, he actually believes that someday he is going to become skinny by doing that. Like, if I just grift hard enough, if I just put myself in sights of like some e-girl, someday I'll be able to be a parasite off of her as well. Like, it really is like Christian tier logic, from our buddy Rich. It really is like a really bizarre out there worldview, when in reality all he really should do is go out and get a job. But that is something that Rich will never do. Tomorrow will never come for Rich.